welcome back to my channel. My name is Shamika and this is Check the Rhymes. I am super excited that you're here. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all, I am super excited because one of my favorites is in the building today. Y'all know her. She is the CEO, publisher. She was editor-in-chief of Right On magazine, and now she is like doing all the things, all of that for the recently launched media platform rightondigital.com. And she, in my opinion, is one of the most respected journalists in the entertainment industry. She kicked the door open for so many of us to do what we are doing today. So I'm excited that Cynthia Horner is joining me today. We're going to talk about her career. We're going to talk about Right On magazine and Right On Digital and more. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss today's show. Cynthia Horner, welcome to Check the Rhymes. How are you today?
I am fine, and thank you for having me. You're such a great person, so this is exciting.
Oh, I'm just so glad we could finally schedule this. I know our schedules are so all over the place because of both what we do and more. So I haven't sat down and really just talked to you since 2018 when I interviewed you for Shondaland. So for those people that are listening today, I'll put that link in the down below so you could check that out. So I thought we'd revisit just a couple of those questions for those people that, you know, how some people don't read. So, for those of you that don't know, Cynthia is the editor-in-chief and head of all things at Right On magazine, now Right On Digital. So that's exciting because I was so hyped to hear that Right On is still here for our, you know, so that we can still get the same type of news we were so used to getting growing up and more, and then getting even more news to learn about some of the newer artists and like the newer celebrities and all that fun stuff. So let's start from the beginning. How did you become one of the youngest editors? I can't talk today.
Editors and chiefs of a magazine.
Yes, at such a major magazine at the age of 21, because, you know, most of us at 21, I know I was so immature. I was barely hanging on to my TV production job.
Well, it's really a complicated story, but it's sort of cute. I just kind of fit what they were looking for at the time. And it was so funny because I had skipped over a couple grades in school. So I looked super, super young at age 21. I probably looked like I was only about 15. So people didn't really take me seriously. But what I would do is I'd always walk around with this yellow briefcase that my brother had bought me for graduation from college. And I would keep some of my articles from different newspapers that I wrote for in there, and my resume and everything. And I just tried to look as professional as possible. And that was very impressive to people back in the day because that wasn't what they would normally see. So to see a very young person that was trying to be as mature as possible and articulate and intelligent, it was just an anomaly. So I just basically, the job was for me. Now, at first, I wasn't the actual editor. I was an assistant. But then there was an opening that came up and they said, can you do the job? And I came from a family where you don't ever say can't. You just says yes, and you do it. So that meant working very long hours. It meant sacrificing my personal life. And that's something that a lot of people would not have been willing to do because I was putting in 10 to 12-hour days just so that I could get up to speed on what I had to get done. I already had the foundation, you know, because I'd been involved in the world of journalism since I was probably like 11 years old. But to do it professionally for a magazine company that had all these A-list stars. Back then, we didn't call them A-list, but we would just call them popular stars.
Right.
And they were the biggest celebrities in the business, and they're the names that you still hear today, even though many of them have passed on. The Michael Jacksons and many other people, their music still lives on. So, or in their television shows that many of these people appeared on still live on reruns. So it was just an exciting time. But like I said, there was a lot of hard work involved. And I think that it's important for me to stress that, because a lot of people don't really have good work ethic. And that's something that you really need if you want to achieve. It's not just about the exterior. A lot of people think, oh, I can put on makeup and I can look good and I can have on this really great outfit. But if you can't produce, you're really not any good to anybody.
Right. And that's something, actually, I was gonna to mention that it's so interesting, like even in today's society, I see so many people that are like, I want to do this, I want to do interviews, I want to start a magazine, I want to be on TV, I want to host, blah, 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 but they don't want to put in the work. They just want it to happen overnight, and it doesn't. Maybe for the rare few, it does happen overnight, but it doesn't. Like, you've got to put in some work and learn, the whatever it is you're trying to do. Do you feel like you missed out on anything? Like, at 21, you're putting in all these hours at this magazine. Do you feel like you missed out on some of the other things 21-year-olds were doing at that age? Like, I don't know, partying.
No, I actually don't, because my job was actually fun.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool job.
But I was getting to go to some of the best parties that would have ever taken place. Like, I remember one time there was a movie called Thank God It's Friday, and it starred Donna Summer.
Oh, yeah.
And back then, when record companies and movie studios had parties, they tried to recreate the scenes and the scenery from the different films. So I remember I got to go in a limousine to this Thank God It's Friday premiere, and they had all the stars there that were in the film, and they recreated the set. And it was just such an incredible situation, that I just don't think that I really missed out on a whole lot of anything, because I was having such a good time, even though it was work related. And I know at age 21, a lot of people, they're still trying to get through college. I'd already finished college. I got out when I was 20 because I had skipped over a couple grades when I was younger. And then I went to a school that permitted you to kind of go to school year round. So that was another reason why I was able to get out early. And to be able to go eat ice cream with a Michael Jackson, or to do all these other things that I got to do, judge beauty contests and all of that. It was just so fun. And I'm sitting here now, I've got a box of photographs of myself with different people, because I was trying to get in gear for our interview today. I'm like, my gosh, I forgot I knew all these people and that I had these kinds of relationships with them. Because back then, if you were a journalist, if you were in a certain category, you had direct contact with these celebrities. It's not like now where it might be like a 5-10 minute phone interview, and then they cut you off, and from there they're getting interviewed by other people. I was around these celebrities a lot. I was at their homes. I remember I got to go to the American Music Awards with the lead singer of the Miracles. We went in a limo to that. I mean, these are the things that I got to do almost every day of my life. Yeah. So I didn't miss out on a whole lot. There's one area that I did miss out on, but it was more intentional. I never had children. That was a decision that it was kind of made for me. I just never got around to it. And that's the one thing that I did miss out on, was actually having my own child. But I've got godchildren. I've got all these celebrities that call me Aunt Cynthia. So, you know, I think my life was pretty complete.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, because even in my own career, it's like I looked up and was like, oh, wait, I don't have kids. I was so focused on the career aspect, and I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine with it. 'Cause like,
and there's nothing wrong with it. Now, a long time ago, we were all raised that we should have families because that's what our ancestors did. But life takes us all in different directions. And I don't think anybody should feel ashamed or embarrassed if they did not go through childbirth and have their own children, because we all have a place in life. And I think that I am a really outstanding person.
Yes, you
and
are.
When I look at a lot of the news reports, I'm seeing a lot of people that were actually parents, and they've done a very poor job. Their children have been abused. Their children have been murdered. This is happening every day. We're seeing it all on the news. It's playing out for us. So I just think that there are a lot of people out here who never should have had children at all, because they did not take care of them. They did not do right by them. So, you know, I think that God had a plan for me. He has a plan for you. And we just have to do whatever makes us feel comfortable.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. Which is actually, I thought, you know, the way that we tell each other, like tell stories of the celebrities and allow them the space to tell them their stories. I feel like that's definitely one purpose that, and I think people love it, especially with Right On Digital, the way that the stories are told and shared. And it's the same way that the Right On magazine was, you know, it's just, you're giving us this peek inside these people's lives. And it's just this, anyway, we'll get to that. But I do want to know, and I can't believe I never asked you this, but who was the first person that you did an interview with at Right On?
I believe it was Bootsy Collins.
That's a good one.
And I actually have a photo of myself sitting on his lap. Now, today, you couldn't do that. People would have thought he was a child molester, or they would have thought something very negative about this very innocent photo that was taken in our photo studio, where I'm sitting on his lap for a second because he was trying to include me in a couple of the photos that our photographer was taking.
Oh, okay.
And he was so nice to me. He looked, basically back then, he still looks the same today, really, you know, with the glasses and the costumes and everything. And it turned out he ended up being one of the first interviews, because he was with a record label that wasn't too far away from the location of Right On. Okay. So there was a process back then where the publicists would always bring the artists that were in town by, so that different photos could get taken and an interview could be done. So he ended up being the first, and Michael Jackson was within the top 5. Michael Jackson came along a little bit later. I interviewed him in conjunction with a birthday that he was having.
Oh,
So, it was Bootsy Collins.
well, now since you brought up my favorite Michael Jackson, like I still love the stories that you've shared with me about like how you even ended up going to was it Havenhurst? Is that where you ended up?
Yes.
Oh, yes, being invited to Havenhurst, all that stuff. So what was it? What was Michael Jackson like? Interviewing him and then as a friend.
Well, Michael Jackson wasn't the easiest person to interview because Michael Jackson was really, really shy, very quiet. He's just one of those people that blossomed when it was time for him to perform or record in the studio. But the rest of the time, he was pretty reticent. So interviewing him wasn't very easy because he didn't necessarily speak in complete sentences. You kind of had to prod the information out of him. But what happened with him is he gravitated to the fact that I looked very, very young for my age, but I spoke in a very intelligent manner. He was very impressed with that. So he enjoyed our conversation, even though it was somewhat brief. And he kind of raved about me to his dad, Papa Joe Jackson, who was his manager at the time, and his Uncle Lawrence, who traveled around with him. And so one day, Joe Jackson called me up in his gruff voice and said, "I want you to come by the house." And I said, "Okay, what am I supposed to do another interview?" He said, "No, I want you to come by the house. I want you to see my kids." And I said, "Well, which kids? Because the Jacksons, that's a clan." Said, well, he said, "The ones that live at the house." So I said, "Oh, okay. Which ones still live at home?" And he said, "Michael, LaToya, Janet, and Randy." So I said, "Okay." So I drove out there. And back then, I just had a small car, very modest. And I told my dad said, "Well, if you're going to visit the Jacksons, you need to go in a better vehicle than the one that you have." Because the one that I had was new, but it was, like I said, very modest.
Right.
It was one of the predecessors to what we now would know as a Toyota.
Okay.
So my dad gave me the family car, which was big, and I drove out there, and I got to they had a guard gate, and there was this lever that has to open, that the guard had to press so that the little arm would come up. And I was so nervous that I didn't get through in time, and the lever started to go back down. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to ruin my dad's car." So I had to back up so that the car wouldn't get destroyed. And then I had to start all over and go through. And so everybody was sitting there waiting for me with their hands folded. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't really even understand what was going on. It was like everybody sitting there waiting for me, and I didn't even know what to say, because I was shy too. So it was kind of hard to break the ice. But Papa Joe Jackson broke the ice and introduced everybody as if no one would know who they all were. And they were fascinated with me because they said, "She looks like a little girl." So I thought that was funny. So their observations of me kind of made me feel a little bit better. And after that, I got used to going over there all the time. And it was so funny because when I would tell fans that I would visit the Jacksons, they're like, "Oh, you didn't fall over and faint?" I'm like, "No," because I was never raised to be a fan.
Right.
So, and this was supposed to be my job. So I had to act professional, even if I was shaking inside and wanting to feel a certain way, I had to put those feelings aside so that I could really do my work.
Right. I wondered if you had like any celebrity that where it just and somebody asked me this, so I thought this was a great question for you, that just really made you like forget that this was work, that you just kind of like fanned out a little bit.
Well, after a while, I would say probably Janet, because Janet was a little bit younger than me, so she looked like a little girl to me. So I felt like I was being the big sister and she was like the little sister. That's kind of how we kind of pretended we were. And she had other celebrity friends. She had friends like Shanice Wilson, eventually, but Kim Fields at first.
Oh, yeah.
And today, Kim Fields would talk about how everybody just really admired the fact that Janet liked me and that Janet considered me like a big sister friend, and how fascinating it was and how envious they were and other people in their circle were to know that I could just comfortably be around Janet Jackson, who was the little sister of the Jacksons. So yeah, I felt very comfortable around Janet Jackson and others too. I remember I used to visit Aretha Franklin a lot because Aretha Franklin used to live basically around the corner from the Jacksons. Back then, most of the well-known Black celebrities all lived in the same neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to go and visit Aretha Franklin, and she made me feel comfortable too, because she's from the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. And so I felt very comfortable around her. I felt very comfortable around Barry White, who also lived in the general area. And he had servants that would feed us and all that. And even though these people were extremely wealthy, they were so friendly and pleasant, and they had such class that I kind of forgot who I was. I forgot about them being the big celebrities and me being from more modest means. So it was like that with most of the people back then. It's not like that now. Now, all these celebrities like to floss. They like to appear to even be bigger than what they actually are. But the celebrities back in the day were very, very different. And they were a whole lot nicer to deal with.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just because social media, they've got to put a front on because of social media. And then it's just the attitude that comes with it. Whereas like, sometimes I miss that where, there was a little mystery to the celebrities. There wasn't like, we knew everything from what they, like everything we see on social media now, from what they ate, what they think, how they voted, all this stuff that it's like, it's too much. Like some of my favorite people, I'm like, I don't like them anymore because some of the stuff they say.
I know what you mean. And social media has kind of ruined things for everybody because it was great to have that mystique. It was great having that mystery. I don't think that it's necessary to know every single thing about someone's life. I wouldn't even want to know every single thing about my best friends' lives because I probably wouldn't like them anymore if I knew every single thing. So social media is a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing because it's a platform and you can get a message out to millions of people potentially. But on the other hand, sometimes people have a tendency to put information out there that they regret. And once it's out there, you can't really take it back because even if you say, oh, I'm going to delete this post or I'm deactivating my Twitter account, trust me, there's somebody out there that still has access to whatever that was, and they're going to bring it up in an interview that you do.
Yep.
And you're going to hate it, but can't be helped because you just can't take all this stuff back. You just have to know what to say and how to say it. Because I know right now there are people that are in their feelings about the recent Grammy Awards.
Right.
And they may have spoken out of turn and said what they didn't like, or the fact that they didn't win something and somebody else did. And their representatives might have asked them to apologize, and or they could say they were misquoted or there was a misunderstanding. But once that information is out there, it's just too late. And I've done media training a lot in the past. And for those who don't know what media training is, it's where you learn what you should say, how to say it, how to conduct yourself for interviews and high profile situations. And I think that a lot of artists today need that because it's not really being stressed at their record labels or anything like that if they're a recording artist. And it's important, especially when you have all these different social media platforms at your disposal that can be used for you and can be used against you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm glad you brought that up because when I see some stuff that people post, I'm like, you need media training. You need it. You need it. You need it. But it just doesn't seem like that's a priority for people anymore. And that's sad.
Right. And a lot of times celebrities feel that because they are wealthy, that they don't need anything. And that's not true. That's not true at all. Everybody's human. We all make mistakes. But the important thing is to learn from your mistakes and try to be a role model to those that are looking up to you and try to do better.
Yes. And some of the artists that I've spoken to on Check the Rhymes and in, my side hustle, my freelance writing, a lot of them credit you for putting them in Right On Magazine and helping them get to where they are. Or even where they were at the time. How do you feel when people are crediting you with their career or as helping them get to the forefront? Because of course we didn't have internet back then, really. Well, no,
right. Yeah, we had nothing.
Yeah,
we didn't even have cell phones.
Right.
We didn't have cable. We just had the big three networks: CBS, ABC, and NBC.
Yeah, and then TV went off at what time? 2:00 or something like that in the morning.
Yeah, and we only had maybe 3 or 4 black TV shows on TV at a time. And then if they got canceled, we may have to wait another year or two before they put some other shows on. No, I feel good. I'm glad that I was there at the beginning of these celebrities' careers. I think that we did a lot for them because if it had not been for us, no one would have really known who they were because some of these people were in the infancy of their career. And I remember one time, Michael B. Jordan, who is now a megastar, he was on a soap opera.
All My Children.
That's where he got his start. And I connected with him maybe about a year ago. And the minute he heard my voice, he interrupted me and said, "I don't forget." And it was just the most amazing thing for him to say that. Because he didn't have to. We weren't going to have that long for our interview, but he wanted to make sure that he let me know how much he appreciated what was done for us, for him. And I remember the same with Nick Cannon. Now, Nick Cannon, he and I have connected a lot over the years, but he actually stopped a press conference because he found out that I was there. And he wanted to make sure that he let people know how much he enjoyed all the interviews that we did and how he used those interviews as a learning opportunity. so that he could ask me questions about some of his favorite celebrities. And it's just nice to know that these people are still here and that I'm still here, that I can still connect with them. I feel very blessed because there are so many people that have left us in the past 2 to 3 years. Many of them are people that used to be on the covers of Right On. I felt so hurt when I found out Irene Cara had passed away. She was so instrumental in people's lives. And she's not here anymore. And of course, Whitney Houston, who was now the subject of different documentaries and films. She even has a perfume that the Whitney Houston estate has recently launched. And she's not here either. And I just, feel so sad that all of these people who got their start in the magazine are in some cases deceased. But I intend to keep their memories alive because there are so many stories that no one ever heard about all of these celebrities. And I want to make sure that I get those stories out while I'm still here.
Yes, I love that. I love that because I just wrote an article about Ebony magazine because we were talking about the anniversary of it. But when I went back to my editor, when she gave that to me, I said, the conversation is always Ebony Essence, Ebony Essence. I'm like, what about Right On magazine? That one was for me. I'm like, I would be in my room for hours reading the magazine, that Word Up magazine, Black Beat, all of it. I would be in there just like for hours. And I'm like, those are the magazines that we tend to forget when we're talking about the magazines that had an impact on our culture. Do you ever feel like left out of the conversation at all when it comes to those types of statements that people are making? Like, this one is the one that impacted our culture, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
It comes up sometimes, but it doesn't come up that often because maybe it's because the people are speaking directly to me that they do bring up Right On and what Right On has done. Of course, we could all use more exposure. There's no question of that. And I think that there are a lot of people who do not understand the significance of what that type of magazine represented because of the fact that they came along later in life. And by then we had social media, which gave them a different barometer as to where you can get news. But when I look at old copies of Right On and look at some of the photos, I'm like, we did that. We definitely did that. I mean, there are some celebrities that made sure that Right On was the first stop. They said they had to have an interview with Cynthia Horner, and they would do whatever it took to get an interview. And that included people like Prince, who didn't even go through a publicist to get an interview. He did it on his own because he didn't want anyone to mess up his opportunity. It was important to him to connect directly with me and get his message out to the public.
I love that because I think people could take some notes from that. I don't know how many interviews have gotten messed up because of that middle person messing it up. Right. Because what Prince was trying to do was he wanted to, first of all, establish himself in the magazine because he knew that we featured a lot of pinups and centerfolds and all that. And he knew that he had the look for that. Oh, yeah.
He also knew that he wanted to be different than some of the other celebrities because he figured being different would get him where he wanted to go. And I didn't necessarily agree with everything that he wanted us to do, but I just went along for the ride because I said, you know what? He has a vision, so let me help his vision come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And this was not anything where he had anybody else to say, okay, Prince, you do this with her, you do that with her. It was all him.
Uh-huh.
They were all one-on-one conversations. He might have had somebody that provided him with transportation to get to where he was, but they were never really in the room or anything. They were someplace else. And that would never happen today.
Right.
People would be afraid to leave a celebrity with a journalist because they wouldn't know what type of direction the conversation was going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't use profanity. He was very respectful. He just wanted to make sure that he was able to tell the story he felt like telling. So
Right.
that meant that he wanted to talk about his favorite foods and that kind of thing. That's what he talked about. He didn't get into some long diatribe about the making of a record or whatever. That was not his purpose in talking to me
Right.
or being around me.
Oh, wow, this is so interesting.
Whereas now
Yeah.
it's not like that anymore.
Uh-huh. I have on a Purple Rain t-shirt today too. So I'm like, this is so cool
Oh, wow.
to hear about that. What would you, to me, you were like a change agent at the time when Black women weren't really seen in high journalism positions until like Oprah came along, right? So you, to me, you were the one that kind of helped open those doors. And so thank you for that. Because I wasn't really aware that we could be the editor-in-chief at a magazine. Like I had no idea. I didn't really know like anything about magazines. I just loved magazines. I loved Right On. And thank you for the posters because my room was decorated. and I had Ralph Tresvant on one wall, Bobby Brown on another, Al B. Shore like right beside my closet. I think I had this is really like I'm really reaching here. I think I had Perfect Gentleman. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And The Boys.
Oh, and you know what is so funny? Whenever I talk to celebrities and they talk about how the magazine was important to them, I always ask them which celebrities were the ones that they admired and liked reading about. And invariably, of course, they're going to say the Jacksons, but many of the males would say New Edition was the group that they gravitated toward. They liked seeing the different outfits that New Edition would wear. Mm-hmm. And everybody from New Edition, as we all know, they had a different look. So guys would try to decide which New Edition member was the one that was their favorite based on what they would wear or what their vocal ability was or their dancing ability, whatever. And it's just funny to hear what everybody has to say. But I would say that most people outside of the Jacksons, of course, and that famous family, mm-hmm. they mention New Edition, they mention TLC, mm-hmm. and in recent years, they would mention people like Nicki Minaj. Because even if you couldn't be a Nicki Minaj, there was something about her that was just so fascinating.
Right.
Now, if I were asked which people did I admire that were in the magazine, I have a totally different list of people because I see it from a different perspective. Right. And I knew all the different celebrities. So my list of which celebrities I admired that were in the magazine would be very, very different than the average fan, mm-hmm. because I have stories I could tell about all these people. So if someone asked me, well, what people did you admire that were in the magazine? I would start out with someone like a Stevie Wonder, who I had quite a bit of access to back in the day. And he was very fascinated with my voice, and due to the fact that he couldn't actually see, he just loved hearing my voice, and he made me say a lot of the same things over and over again and try to record what I was saying.
I love it.
So that he could keep it. But yeah, they're just so many.
He still has it. I wonder if he still has those recordings.
He probably does, because I don't think he would get rid of anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was trying to sample my voice because he found my voice very unique. So, and he also liked hearing what I had to tell him about different celebrities. So, we had some good times together. And there's just so many of these people. I mean, I would mention Kim Fields.
Mm-hmm.
I would mention Regina King, who used to write stories for the magazine. You know, these are names that some of the other fans would not necessarily think of, but these are the people that I would mention. Jeffrey Daniel from Shalimar.
Yeah.
He and I were very close. And the Jacksons' parents, I was very close to Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. So I would definitely put them up at the top of my list of the people that I admired that were in the magazine.
I love that. That's a great list. Now, what happened to Right On Magazine? Because it was around until wasn't it around the early 2000s? I'm just off the top of my head trying to remember.
Okay, the magazine continued publishing regularly until around 2012.
Okay.
Then we took a hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
But we're bringing it back. The only problem is now we're living in digital times. Yeah. So it is coming back as print, but it has not come back yet. It will, though.
Okay.
But right now, just go to rightondigital.com and you can see a lot of interviews. A lot of the interviews are on video, and so you can look at them real quickly there. But I think that if we want to sum up what Right On did, it gave people a chance to be proud of their culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave people an opportunity to find out positive news about your favorite celebrities.
Yes.
A lot of publications that are out today, well, mainly the online publications, they gravitate toward the news as a little bit more negative because they're trying to push the envelope and they feel that people want to hear the gossip. And they do. They do. I've worked for some of those publications, so I know the fascination people have toward gossip. But at the end of the day, people love hearing positive stories about entertainers because, let's face it, we admire them.
Yeah.
So we don't want to hear everything horrible that happens to them. We want to hear the fun stuff. We want to hear the good things that happen to these people too.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love hearing, even sometimes I will even just ask the most random question, like, what was your first job? Like, or what was your whatever, just so we can hear some positive, funny, sometimes it's hilarious. Like Will Downing is probably the only person or artist that's had me literally laughing so hard in tears on camera. But it's like I love hearing the positive stories and reading the positive stories because, now you've got these sites that are out there now, and I'm not going to name names, but that are just focused on finding anything negative to publish about people.
Yeah. And see, the bad part about that is a lot of this information is not really true.
Right.
So you have to be very careful these days because a long time ago, artists didn't really fight back if there was negative information that was untrue. Mm-hmm. But now we have a lot of artists that are multi millionaires.
Yes.
And some of them are starting to fight back against bloggers and against online outlets that they feel are unfairly targeting them. Mm-hmm. They're taking people to court. So we didn't have that a long time ago. People, if there were negative articles published about some of these celebrities, they would just suck it up and just say, okay, we're not dealing with them anymore. But now they want monetary damages for defamatory articles,
right,
that are being published. So people are going to have to be more mindful of that in the future. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, the celebrity may have done what the bloggers or journalists said they did, but they just don't want to see it out there like that. So they are getting their teams to try to fight back anyway and intimidate some of these people at these media outlets so that they will back off.
Mm-hmm. So I just have a couple more questions. Was there a favorite cover that you had a write on, like something that you were just like, this is the one that is my absolute favorite?
That's a difficult question to answer because there were so many good ones. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a turquoise cover where Janet Jackson had on a midriff top. She had long hair. This was probably, I would say maybe it was before Control.
Okay. She
looked really beautiful. It was an outdoor shot. I really liked that cover. And then there's one of Prince where it's a black background and it's like stars that are on the backdrop, and then he's got on a pair of shorts. I like that one too. Uh-huh. There's a shirtless one of Jermaine Jackson that was really phenomenal.
I think I remember that one.
Yeah. There's one of Shalimar. They were dressed for the holiday season, so they had on some Kansai sweaters. That was a real fashion statement when we had that cover. There were just so many. There were so many of them. There was a New Edition Christmas cover where we had them with the Santa Claus hats on.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't, I can't even begin to say that there's one that stood out over the other because they're all my kids.
Right. I was just going to say that's always how I feel.
I can't pick. I could never pick a favorite because they were all the favorite at the time they were birthed.
Right.
Yeah. So now there's just this whole tribe. There's hundreds of kids here.
Right. Okay. You're also being honored at this year's Black Media Honors in April, and congratulations on that. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means that I'm an official legend.
You've been a legend.
People always say that I'm a legend. Well, it's really official at this point because I have outlasted everybody that's ever been in this business, in this field. And it just doesn't seem like I've been in this field that long. But I actually have, and I've got these photos here in different boxes that show me that I have been around that long. It's kind of scary in a way, but it's heartwarming. It's wonderful. It's very much appreciated because I've been honored by people in the past, but it hasn't been as often as anyone would think. I've seen a lot of other people that have been honored that I'm wondering how in the world did that happen for them? Mm-hmm. But I'm not an envious person. I figure what's for you is for you. And this one's for me.
Yes, yes. I'm excited. I was just thinking, I hope I can get to Atlanta to so I can meet you in person finally, but to also celebrate you.
Yeah, and I want to say that I want to thank you for everything that you've ever done for me. You have been a game changer in my career, and we'll discuss that more at another time. But I would say that behind every great media person is a journalist that helped push the envelope and propel that media figure to a higher level.
Mm.
So
Oh,
that's you.
you're gonna
And
make
that's
me
me.
cry. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I want to say one thing about the fact that we as women have to uplift each other,
Yes.
because if you look at the if you read the different stories on the media, you always see examples of women tearing each other down, women physically fighting each other, women actually killing each other.
Mhm.
And it's wrong. If you think about our ancestors and how our ancestors were brought over here from Africa, people had to work together. It was the only way they were able to survive. When they got there on those plantations, people had to help each other with the work that they were doing. If one
Yes.
person couldn't do their share, another person would step up to the plate to help so that that other person wouldn't be in trouble. People had to figure out what to do about hair
Mhm.
because there were no beauty salons
Yeah.
on the slave plantations. We had to figure out how to help each other braid hair, cook, figure out how to make meals out of the vegetables and the wildlife that existed on those plantations.
Yes.
We need to celebrate with each other. We
Mhm.
need to love on each other. And we need to learn to be better sisters to each other.
Yes. You just preached a sermon just then, because yes, I see so many women that are in this business in media that just it's the pettiness and the cattiness and trying to one up each other and not, you know, and then if one asks for help, like there's one girl, woman I saw, she was asking for help with just writing a pitch and nobody was responding. And I was like, girl, send me that. I'll help you, you know, and it just, she's just like, nobody would help. And I
They
was
won't. They won't.
exactly, and
People
it's
are
sad.
people are very selfish.
Hmm.
And it's wrong because we all need help. I could use help. You know, I give help all the time, but there's times when I could use some help. I thought
Hmm.
about that earlier today.
Yeah.
And I think that we've become very short-sighted and we're just figuring, okay, it's all about me. And it should never be about me. It should always be about we, because we are a society. We are a society of people. We are not a society of one.
Right.
And I think that maybe through this interview, this may give people an opportunity to think about their behavior
I hope
and
so.
try to be kinder to each other.
Hmm. Yes, I hope so. So, do you want to be kind and let me win that date with Albie Shore that I tried to win, whatever it was in the magazine?
My gosh, I'll be sure when I think about him. Oh my gosh, I'll his cover where we have him using a phone.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that cover! I remember the late Andre Harrell, who was the president and founder of Uptown Records, that I'll be sure was associated with.
Uh-huh.
When we did that cover, I distinctly remember him saying, Cynthia, that cover is the one. He said, that cover is going to go down in history. And it did. I'll be sure looked absolutely perfect. And even today, I still hear from a lot of Al B. Sure fans, people that were diehard Al B. Sure fans back in like 1989.
Yes. So that would be
They,
me. I'm one of those.
yeah, I mean, he was the perfect sex symbol.
Uh-huh. So I have to tell you this. I met him in person for the first time. I think it was 2017. And it had me so shook. I couldn't move. Like he kissed me on my forehead, and he just come off stage. I said something to him. He kissed me on my forehead. Sweat was dripping. Like I couldn't move. His sweat just slid down my face as I stood there for like 5 minutes before I could even move. I was like, I'll be sure.
Oh, and you know what? These celebrities like hearing that stuff. They will never get enough of it, especially as everybody gets older, they hear less of it. So they love hearing those stories.
Yeah. So if I ever get to talk to him again, I'll have to share that with him, because I was like, I normally do not get, I'm like you. I think of it as like, this is my job. This is me. I'm working. But that one actually was like, oh my gosh, this was my boyfriend in my head when I was 10 years old. I can't move.
Wow. I'm trying to think if there was somebody that I met today, if I pitch over and faint. I don't know, though. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe Barack Obama.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I'm so excited that we were able to do the interview, and I cannot wait to see you get your flowers at the Black Media Honors. And of course, everybody should check out Right On Digital. It's an amazing site, and the nostalgia is still there, all the fun things. What else are you working on? Are you a book maybe?
Yeah, I am actually. I finally figured out where I wanted to start and where I wanted to end.
Okay. So I can't.
Because I could never figure that out. And I recently figured out where I wanted to end. Yep.
Okay. Well, whenever you come back to talk about that book, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, because there are so many different things that have occurred in my life that are very interesting. But my wedding to Ken the photographer, my husband, partner in crime, that was an amazing day for me. And that actually out-topped anything that ever happened with the celebrities.
I love that.
Because I was queen for a day.
Yeah.
And well, people call me queen anyway, queen of media or whatever, but I really did feel like a queen because it wasn't that long ago. I never got married until late in life. So that day will always stand out. So I think I'm going to probably end my book with some information about the wedding, because nobody knows what I went through that day. It was the most amazing experience that anybody could ever go through, though. That I have to say.
Oh, I can't wait. I love a good wedding story. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw the photos from that wedding, you'd probably cry. Everybody was crying at that wedding. Yeah. All they did was cry and take pictures. That's all that happened. So I think I'll probably end it with that.
Okay. Well, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Oh, okay. You can find me on Facebook, Cynthia Horner 71. 71 is because of Right On Magazine, of course.
Yes.
And www.rightondigital.com is where you can see me the most, because you can hear my voice. You'll see some audio, sometimes photos of me from different events. And we're also on Instagram at Right On Digital Official.
Okay. There you go. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia Horner, y'all. I'm super excited that you came here on Check the Rhymes. Thank you again.
Yeah, and I appreciate you so much. And one day, very shortly, you will find out how much I appreciate you, because like Michael B. Jordan said, I don't forget.
I love it.